Well, thank you for joining us again. This week we've been thinking about love. That call to love God with all that we are and what that means. We've reminded ourselves that when we trust Jesus, we are being drawn into being one with the Father, with the Son and the Spirit, that we are invited to participate in the divine nature. We share in the work of inviting others in to know the love of God. That's all amazing stuff which really should blow our minds. Well, for the last 2 days on this subject, we're going to focus in on the reality of loving. We're going to start by reading together part of the Sermon on the Mount, those incredibly challenging words of Jesus. Let's read together Matthew chapter 5, 43 to 48. Matthew chapter 5, 43 to 48. Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbour and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." Love is often associated with a feeling, with an emotion, with a warmth, with an excitement that kind of bubbles up inside us. And when we fall in love with someone, there's that period of time when that person consumes our thoughts. There isn't anything we wouldn't do for them. And in worship, we can experience a similar overwhelming feeling of love towards God. In that moment, we might feel that there is nothing that we would not do for him. It's easy for the things of God to consume all our thoughts. But in both cases, our human relationships and our relationship with God, these emotions don't last. They cannot be sustained, at least not with the same all-consuming intensity. Therefore, love has to be a choice. Love is not easy to maintain. To keep on loving is difficult. But love for us drove Jesus on through his betrayal, through the scattering of his friends, through the denying, through the false accusations, through the beatings, through the humiliation, and ultimately on through the cruel death of the cross. Through it all, Jesus chose to love us, and it carried him through all of those horrific experiences. Here in this part of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says something outrageous to his listeners. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. Jesus says that it's easy to love those who love you, but what about the people that are hard to love? What about those who've harmed you, those who seem to be making it their daily goal to make your life miserable? Those who've left scars and deep wounds in your past. Those who've taken something precious from you and treated it with contempt. Jesus says, love them. This kind of love isn't about warm, gooey feelings for them. This is about treating them how Jesus would treat them. About forgiveness. About looking to bless them and serve them. But how hard is that? In Romans 5, Paul says this: God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Just as Jesus chose the cross even when we were still enemies of God, we are to choose to love even those who have harmed us, who might be classed as our enemies. Now, I'm not sure many of us would say that we have enemies. Well, I'm sure all of us can think of people that have harmed us or hurt us. And even thinking of them now may stir up those really ugly, uncomfortable feelings that we don't like inside of us. Well, Jesus doesn't teach us these hard things and then not follow through in his own life. We just have to look at the cross. It must have felt to Jesus like the whole of humanity were his enemies in that moment. All the hate poured out against him. But he says, with genuine love, Father, forgive them. Father, forgive them. Love is a choice. There are some people that it might feel impossible for us to love, to choose to love. But Jesus says something else too. And I think this is the secret that makes this high demand possible. He says, pray for your enemies. Now, it doesn't mean that we should pray that they get hit by a bus. He means pray that they might be blessed. Paul says this in Romans 13, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. You see, prayer changes us. If we daily choose to pray blessing over those who have harmed us, those who continue to harm us, then through the strength of Christ, we can move to a place of love. So let's start today. Who has come into your mind as we've thought about this together? Perhaps there's one person, perhaps there's a few, perhaps there's a particular event in your life that just comes straight back into your mind and your heart in these moments. And you think to yourself, how can I possibly forgive that person? Well, let's be still before our Heavenly Father, before Father, Son and Spirit, that community of love. And let's begin today and pray a blessing for that person in this moment. And let's commit to doing this every day. In this way, we are being children of our Heavenly Father. Our Heavenly Father who is love. May God bless us and help us.